Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of The Spotlight. I'm your host, Kente, all the way live from Los Angeles, California, and I'm happy to be here on this special episode. I am joined by Yardley. How you doing, Yardley?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. Excited to talk a little Star Wars with you.
Yes, and once again, back to back, joined by Lauren.
Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up from Black Nerd Swag?
That's right, Black Nerd Swag, yes. So real quick, we'll start off with you, Yardley. Just give us a little background on who you are real quick.
Oh, well, to a lot of people who've been listening to your shows from a while, they recognize me as kind of your tag team partner on a lot of indie radio shows. You know, I've still been around. For the most part, as far as podcasting goes, I've been focusing on the Creeping It Real podcast with Christy and Moni. And, you know, we get into a little pop culture and, you know, horror and true crime. But for the most part, as of late, it's been about it as far as podcasting goes. But thanks for the invite. And you know what? I look forward to the topic. You know, I'm a big Star Wars fan. But yeah, I was about to go on a Star Wars little rant there, but I know we'll have plenty of time to do that.
That's what's up. That's for sure. And Lauren, I know you've been on you were just on the program, but give us a little background on who you are and Black Nerd Swag.
Hey, how you doing? I am the creator and owner of Black Nerd Swag. Like you said before, we were on his podcast, so you make sure you go check the last one, Spotlight. We used to be a subscription box company where we focus on Black nerds, all the things we're doing, all the things that we like. And so now we're getting into bringing the Black Nerd Swag box back next year in 2020, as well as having virtual pop culture summits that we're currently about to have one that's going to be released this coming week on Friday. So make sure you go check that out by going to our Black Nerd Swag Facebook page and start talking to our messenger bot, because we send all the notifications about that opening time to get it through email. So make sure you talk to the bot, give it your email so that we can alert you when it's released.
All right. I love it. Using a little AI.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. All right, so let's talk about it. So this show is going to be mainly about a preview of Star Wars Episode 9. And it's also going to be, we're going to talk about the Star Wars property altogether. Now, I can remember, Yardley was on the show we did in, I guess, what was it, 2014 when Force Awakens came out? Something like that, 2015, 14?
Yeah, I think it was me, you, and Chris.
We did a preview show before it came out. And we were all excited. We were, you know, looking forward to, okay, now, you know, Star Wars is going to grow up and J.J. Abrams is going to bring it into the new century. And we were all excited. The movie comes out. And I think for the most part, everybody was happy with it. You know, the biggest criticism was that it was a rehash of A New Hope. But I think for the most part, most people was pretty happy with the first film. And then Rogue One came out. And for the most part, most people were like, okay, that's cool. You know, Rogue One was good. You know, it was a good film. And then, so then we did a pre-show for Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And I don't know if y'all remember, I know y'all do. The hype before The Last Jedi was big because the great Rian Johnson was directing. And remember, it was coming out that all the word was that this was going to be the best Star Wars film ever. And it was going to subvert all expectations and all of that. I don't know if you remember. Remember, it was already great before it came out. Remember, yeah. Yardley? Like, it was already, everybody was saying, oh, this is going to be it. And then the movie came out, and I would say of the diehard Star Wars fans, yeah, y'all can correct me if you're wrong. So we're going to start in the past first. I would say diehard Star Wars fans, I would say 40% probably liked the movie. About 40. What's up, Donald? I see Donald in the chat room and Andre. I would say about 40%. Would y'all agree with that, or would you say it's higher or lower?
You were saying that, what was the percentage again?
I would say about 40% of diehard Star Wars fans probably like that movie.
No, I don't know. I would probably say it was around down the middle, because most people would basically have to make their judgments. If you're making your judgment based off of social media, the overall.
Then it's like 10%, if that.
Yeah, it's very large. So yeah, I would maybe 45% or something like that.
About 45%. Would you say that's fair, Lauren?
Yeah, I'll go with that, because it really does depend. Like, if you're living all in social media world versus you're living in both worlds of the real world, people's kind of opinions or thoughts on that, yeah, we'll go with that. It depends on where you live. Like, some people only live on Twitter and Facebook, or YouTube was big because a lot of folks who were putting out Star Wars videos since the Clone Wars or whatever, versus people who started because the movies were coming out and stuff like that. It depends on what platforms you live on, or if you also live in the real world and like go to the conventions and talk to people. But I'll stick around 45-ish% myself then.
I would.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like with YouTube, you get more hits if you're
right.
Negative. You know what I'm
right. I don't think it was as bad as people said it was. Like, it's not a great movie, but like, I just think like Force Awakens was more rewatchable, I think, than Last Jedi. Like, I could watch Force Awakens again.
Yeah, and the fervor also with the Force Awakens, there was like a long hiatus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, from Star Wars. So at this point we were getting like one a year. It was like when that train was starting to go. But when we did that show about the Force Awakens, I think the enthusiasm, a lot of it was basically based off of us trying to see what they were going to do with the new characters. And I think the only complaint that I had going into A Force Awakens was, as much as, like Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, that's like my Star Wars. And as much as I love those characters, I knew that when you put them on the screen with the new people, they're going to suck all the energy out of the room.
Right.
And it's going to take away from what I thought was going to be kind of a new beginning from Star Wars. So instead of passing the torch, we can see going into the third movie, it's a lot of people kind of still sticking around and they're going to have their presence. It's kind of Star Warsy for people to kind of stick around in some capacity, but I think my excitement for that was just more so I was hoping that they would lean on the new talent and give them very interesting stories to move forward.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't hate The Last Jedi. There were some things that I thought were pretty good about The Last Jedi. I thought, I know a lot of people criticized the opening of it. I thought the opening was good. I liked that, the beginning of it. Like I was saying to Lauren, the only thing is it felt kind of like a Battlestar Galactica episode.
Yeah.
That was the one thing. And, there were some things that Rian Johnson did that was kind of jacked up. Like, he didn't really follow with the first film. If you're going to establish with the first film, you can't just throw it out the window. So, So that movie made tons of money, but it was a huge financial hit. But then it set up the stage for the first Star Wars flop, which was Solo. That was, we can all agree that was a huge flop. That film. It was a flop as far as it wasn't a great movie. And then also it didn't make any money. And now we're here going into episode 9 with a lot of question marks. And my question, and I'll start off with Yardley. What is it? Do you feel like, to me, it feels like this is a moment where they got to get it right for the future of they have to get it right for the future going forward. How much weight do you put in this film and its importance for the overall property?
Well, I think like The Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams is going to play it safe and try to stick the landing playing it safe. I mean, what is safer than having 3 movies and then at the end of the day, you're wheelbarrowing out somebody who should be dead to be the main villain when going in? We were thinking that characters like Kylo Ren or Snoke,
Right.
we're kind of thinking that, I guess especially Kylo would be taking the reins as the main person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, the fact that you're recycling Palpatine, because going in for me, I think that's my biggest thing is like, how are you bringing back Palpatine? You know what I mean? So I just, based on what we saw from Return of the Jedi, I just find it, I'm like, well, that's all I want to know. It's not necessarily how they're going to treat, other certain characters. Everything that I hope for is about the Palpatine thing. So I just think that he's just going to play it safe. He's going to stick the landing. I think all of the characters that we started this story off with, as far as Finn, Poe Dameron, and Daisy Ridley, I think all of them are going to make it out. Alive, I think they'll be okay. But I don't see them doing anything else really outside of the box. I kind of feel like they're going to follow the template of kind of like he did with The Force Awakens, of kind of rounding out the story, maybe in a similar way to the Return of the Jedi. I think we're basically going to see an updated version of Return of the Jedi in this movie.
What about you, Lauren? How do you feel like the importance of getting it right, going forward? I mean, Star Wars is not going to go away, but I feel like this film really is like huge as far as where it's going in the future.
Well, what's happening with this film is they're pretty much ending the Skywalker line. So everything with Leia, that's what they're attempting to do, because you're forgetting the fact that one of the characters who died,
Right.
the actress died, and apparently they had already plans for how the third movie was supposed to wrap up relatively nicely. But when she died, it was like, oh shit, what are we going to do? So it was a lot of, from what I understand from various sources, a lot of like, what are we going to do? We want to do this right because this is a beloved character, beloved person, and the Star Wars fan base is very vocal, especially about that character. So, I mean, I was at Star Wars Celebration, not the last one, the one before, just after she died, and the kind of stuff that went on, people cried. Grown men
really
were crying when her montage went on. They did a whole montage and everything, whether her daughter was there. People who don't, Harrison Ford, who doesn't want to, his feelings on Star Wars was there. People showed up who normally would not have showed up, and they were there really to pay an honor to her. And it was like you couldn't get into the conference hall. I mean, you couldn't get into the hall. Like I was on the show floor because I couldn't get into the conference hall, and they had these huge screens set up, and everything on that floor stopped when her montage came on because they didn't know that they were going to do that. And so, like, when you have an actor die, and then basically the script, a lot of the things that they're talking about in terms of Palpatine, if you were into Legends, apparently Palpatine comes back in clones and all kinds of shit happens anyway. And in terms of whether Luke's storyline and what happens to Palpatine, there were ideas that it seems very similar, if not taken from George anyway, that he had if he were to continue Star Wars. So a lot of stuff that kind of people complain about is shit that technically they took that they said they weren't going to use, and they're actually bringing back like, okay, this is what we're going to do now, and all this stuff. So the Palpatine coming back, if you're into Legends, he comes back in Legends and clones and shit like that and different stories. The stuff that happens with some of the characters is very similar to what was in Legends, plus what George had voiced that, hey, if I were to do this kind of how I would wrap it up. Where Luke is, what he thinks about himself, that was a lot of George's kind of pre-ideas way back when. So a lot of stuff that people may not be happy with is shit that he actually said or was already somewhere in Legends about. So there is a group of Star Wars fans who are really into Legends, who read all the books, and like the clone of this one, that's why everyone thought Rey is the clone of Palpatine, because there's a storyline where it's something similar to that happens. And they sort of okay, well, this is what's happening. So some people are excited to see Palpatine because they're kind of thinking, oh, this is more Legends. This is what we kind of were fans of in the first place because we didn't like the first film. So now this third film, if we're sticking with the franchise to see what happens, oh shit, they're taking stuff from Legends and putting it in there. It's kind of like that kind of vibe or the excitement of what's going to happen. But this film is really a wrap-up film with ending the Star Wars saga in terms of the main characters that you people knew and loved. So having Leia being featured, having Han being featured, having Luke. It's just so all the old characters that we're seeing Lando. This might be the last time we ever see Lando in a film, for real, because this is supposed to be the wrap up, and possibly because they planned out Star Wars for another 10, 20 years or something like that, movie wise. It's going to be featuring. This is when the mantle is really passed. So it's not really happening in the first two movies. You're getting like the intro. Here's the build up, and now we're ending one storyline for these folks. And these other folks you get, if we get the next few movies, it's going to be, and we're talking about this sort of line, it's going to be with them. They're the new people. So they took 3 movies because they had to wrap up the old folks and then establish these new people for the future movies. That's what they're attempting to do with the last one.
So will we see Rey? Are you saying we might see Rey and Finn in future movies?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Well, that's what they're that's what they're attempting to do, because the way things were, it's like, okay, if we're going to do this again, we're going to establish newer, younger actors because we want hopefully lifespan. But the older actors, we're going to have them in it, and they're going to be passing the torch between these 3 movies. So if Carrie Fisher hadn't died, it was going to turn out very differently. But she died before, when she died, they hadn't even finished the rest of the re-edits for The Last Jedi.
Right.
So it kind of like everybody's like, oh shit. So now we're cutting this way and doing this, and we never get that, because the last movie, there was a scene in Last Jedi where Kylo Ren hesitates. He can't shoot his mother. He knows she's there. They feel each other in the Force, and he can't do it. Somebody else does it. There was supposed to be a scene between those two. And of course, she died before any of that can really happen.
Isn't that funny though? Like he hesitates to shoot his mother, but he has no problem stabbing his daddy to death.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you know what?
I know it was like, okay. So it looks like on screen he has no problem, but actually, if I read the books, so in the books, all that shit comes back to haunt him. Like he hesitates. He's a problem.
He looked pretty happy after he killed his daddy.
He's not happy. Like if you read the book version of the movie, then you see kind of what happens with him.
The only pain he was in was when Chewbacca shot him.
He actually needed that pain in order to attempting to fight, because darkness fights on pain and shit like that. So
I think that actually at that point in the movie when Kylo hesitates and then the other fighters swoop in, and we get that shot of the front of the ship blowing up, and then we see the the startled look on Princess Leia's face, and then she gets sucked out into space. And for me, I really, just for a few seconds, I was like, Rian Johnson is a genius, because he managed to end Princess Leia's storyline and do it in a way that nobody was expecting. Like, everybody's jaw dropped in the theater when she got sucked out into space, and I was like, yes, they're gonna do it. They did it. This was a good way. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, that this guy got, I was like, Rian Johnson got some heart. He's like, you know what? People don't always have, funerals and go out like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was just saying, like, what I mean? And I would have been able to accept that. Like, I thought it was dope. And then, like, 10 seconds later, my eyes is rolling.
Oh, yes. That was one of the worst scenes. Yeah.
But I really thought they was going to go there, and they just kind of.
I think he wanted to, though.
Let me down. But I can understand why you wouldn't do that, and it's along the line of what Lauren was saying.
Because it was planned that they were supposed to have a face-to-face, and then she died.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, she's a beloved character, and I could see how, like, some people are saying, well, you can't let her go out like that. But then I'm like, man, most of these characters just get stabbed through the heart and fall into a crater, get picked up and thrown down a crater. So those aren't like glorious deaths either.
I just, I'm about to spoil The Wire. But do you guys remember, if you watched The Wire, remember how Omar died? I mean, come on, you can't kill a beloved.
Exactly, that would have been the Omar Little moment.
Yeah, Omar just went gone.
Right, a little kid that him in. So yeah, I mean, which was a great scene. But okay, so I know this ain't the Wire podcast. So all right, episode 9. There's a lot of masters that need to be served for this film to to be completed and for people to feel like they got their money's worth, right? So I'm gonna list some things, and I want to kind of get an idea of how important you think it is that they deal with. Okay, so I think one of the things that came out of the first film, which when I say first film, I'm referring to Force Awakens, is the whole Knights of Ren, which it seemed like that was going to be like this big thing in Episode 8, and Rian Johnson decided to ignore it. I don't know. I haven't been following everything, so you guys probably know better than me. I imagine that's going to be a thing in this movie, right?
I mean, maybe. I don't think that if people are setting themselves up to believe that they're going to be some big part of it, I think it's going to be, they'll have a moment, and I think that's it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think that they're going to be throughout the whole movie. I think there's going to be a point in the movie where they're going to get dusted.
Right. I mean, is it important to you, Lauren, to have some insight about it? Because in that first film, it set it up pretty nicely.
About who?
The Knights of Ren.
Oh, Knights of Ren? Okay, so I'm going to draw a little bit from the canon books and crap little things we've gotten to the... Because unless you read the books, I'm going to do my best on this one. But the Knights of Ren are kind of... I think it's going to be a little bit more than they just get dusted off, because it's not Ryan doing the movie,
right?
But it's Jay doing the movie. So if Ryan was doing this movie, I'd be like, So to be honest with you, but since it is Jay doing the movie and he spent they spent a lot of time. If you got the book, The Art of Star Wars, they spent a shit ton of time on the Knights of Ren, because they basically represent another faction of the dark side,
right?
Okay, because the Sith are gone as of right now, but they're supposed to represent another group that's coming and developing, and it's supposed to be, it's built up to be a big thing. But when you look at how they were making the movie at that time, it was a big thing,
right?
So the second movie didn't do it, and it was like, oh shit. Now I think they're gonna come back at least. I think they'll at least get 5 or 6 minutes of screen time, at least that. But at least in the books, in terms of canon, the mentions of other groups, you had people who were Vader fans, and they were going around trying to collect all kinds of Sith artifacts.
Right, I like that aspect of the Force Awakens.
Yeah. They were actually groups out there doing that. One of Palpatine's kind of ministers or right-hand man, in terms of, he's a scientist who's also into Sith religion and stuff like that. He leads another group, Something Beyond. I forget the first name of it, but Something Beyond. And they go around looking for Sith artifacts. When they find them, they start trying to put them on, like masks from dead Sith lords from like 1,000, 2,000 years ago and shit. And then they started, whatever was in that mask, that person, it's like it leaves an imprint of them if they're that powerful of a dark side user. And so when they put it on, they start changing and shit and like killing people, and like random crazy shit happens. So if they bring more of that aspect into it, which is what they were attempting to do, which probably would explain why the Knights of Ren are wearing the stuff they're wearing, it might be just old armor from like dead Sith lords and acolytes and shit, for all we know.
Oh, okay.
Which would be cool to fucking see if that's what happens, but I think they'll get at least 5 minutes of it to kind of say, hey, we're just confirming what...
So it's just a little tease. A little tease.
Yeah, I think we'll get... I think if there's another movie after this, then we'll see a lot more of...
Oh, I see. I never thought about it like that. Possibly going forward. Okay.
Yeah, it's more like they're here, so there's a reference. So when you see this other shit that starts to happen, because there's two things. There's the next movie, if we most likely we get it, with is Rey and Finn, and you see whatever that goes to. And then there's other movies like we want a Sith Academy, either a Sith Academy movie or TV show, or another movie that focuses more on kind of dark side users of the Force. But if we have no reference to other shit, for a lot of the majority of people, they won't understand it.
Okay.
So but the second movie did what it did, so it kind of took a lot of that out of there. So now the third movie kind of has to remember this. This is important.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think they're important at all. I just think they've got too many different doors to close, and I don't think that they're going to spend that much time.
And I was really interested in that aspect. Let me ask a dumb question.
We want to see more Force users. We always get to see like one Force user here, one here. We want to see more shit.
Right. Let me ask this question. It might be a dumb question, but are we done with Snoke? Is there going to be anything with Snoke going forward, or? Yeah, because it just seems like he was a wasted character.
You know what it is? Snoke, remember DJ in The Last Jedi, how he was the big con man?
Right.
Snoke is technically a con man who has Force powers.
Right.
What essentially happened, and this is coming from the books, if you don't read the books, you won't know this background, but what essentially happened in Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy, at the last book, the remnants of what's left of the Empire, there was a contingency plan that Palpatine put in place. Like, hey, if for some reason I get killed, all this shit has to happen. So what he did was he had all these folks go around, all these different, whatever was left in his contingency plan, go to all these planets, like destroy records, move people to certain places, and all kinds of shit was going down. But at the end of that book, the last Aftermath book, this is the birth of the First Order. The first person who leads the First Order is a Black Admiral, Admiral Sloane, who we don't talk about much. I was hoping to see her in the movie, but she's the first leader of the First Order. They go into uncharted space. So this is where Thrawn and all that shit from, shit comes in important. Uncharted space. It's hard to navigate out there. It's not mapped. There's no way to navigate. So what winds up happening is the fleet that's left of the Empire, they get lost out there. And that's a problem. They can't find their way back. They don't know where the fuck they're going. They're running out of fuel and food. Snoke finds them out there because he's already out there. So we don't realize that Snoke is a con man, and you see him get killed. But the book that's going to, I think there's supposed to be some other stuff they're going to be released on Snoke will reveal like who he actually was and shit like that. But he knew about the Empire. He knew about Palpatine, but he's a Force-using man who was basically a con man. He figured if I help them and I got Force powers, I can be like the big man like Palpatine was. But he wasn't a Sith. He was basically a con man who had dark side powers.
So are we gonna get him though? Anything about him in this next movie, or
we might hear his name mentioned a couple of times, but really
that page is turned. Huh?
But that's it. He's the DJ of the Star Wars universe at this point.
Okay, all right. So really, this is really about the origins of Kylo Ren as the big bad.
Yeah, because he is the big bad. If Rey is going on a hero's journey, Kylo Ren is making the opposite journey. He's going to be the next Palpatine. That's what he wants to be. That's what he's trying to be. And unfortunately, he's not that good at certain things. Like his thing, he's trying to be a force. Like he's throwing Hux around and shit. Hux is looking ridiculous, but you don't know how dangerous Hux actually is. If you read the book Phasma and you read the Aftermath trilogy, you see that Hux is nobody to fuck with. Like he's the guy who was planning your demise.
His father was a big baddie or whatever, right?
Yeah, but Hux is the guy, like, he's the Game of Thrones type of guy. He's like the little finger, like, okay, you fucking me up. All right, I know I can't physically beat you, but I'll have your food poisoned. I'll have this shit. Like, he's that guy.
Right.
That's the shit he winds up doing. So,
yeah, he's kind of a joke I always see that
this shit is going to be a problem.
Movie. He's kind of a joke in the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Yardley stepped away, so I'm going to ask you this question.
Okay.
Cool. Shipping is a big thing when it comes to these things. And I think a lot of people thought that Rey and Finn was going to be shipped together, and that didn't happen. And then there was this weird thing where they wanted Finn and Poe. Yeah, that that was
because two men can't be friends and buddy. They must be in a homosexual relationship.
Right. It was so strange. And I heard that they actually thought about that.
Well, this is the thing. And this is the thing. And this is the shit that'll get us in trouble. This is that. I was like, there's demographics of people who want to see that. And historically, yeah, you understand why they really want to see that, because they're not really represented in movie medium, in major movies like Disney, where here's two guys who are together and they love, whatever. They don't really see that. You get hints of shit now in like now move forward to 2018 all the way up to now and beyond. But we haven't really seen two men in a Disney film where they're saying, hey, I love you and all that other shit. Meanwhile, there are gay Star Wars characters, but you have to read the books to find out that they're gay or in relationship, or the comics. There's a few of them. So when people see this buddiness, you have a community of folks in the LGBT community, shout out to them, that they really want to see something like that for the first time, very blatant, even though in this scenario, it's really not that at all. It's really, they're becoming really good friends. It's more like a bromance kind of thing, because with Finn had that kind of relationship with the stormtrooper that gets killed. That's his friend, Slip.
Right.
Like, it's that kind of relationship. It's like he's a replacement for Slip, the friend that got killed in the first movie.
Right.
But, you know, certain people really want to see it because they've never seen themselves in a kid's film where it's very blatant that this is what it is. So they're making, you know, more of it. But hey, they're playing into it because it's giving them PR. So
well, that's not what I was going with this though. And I see Yardley's back. So in the last movie, they put kind of Rose and Finn together, and I know a lot of people didn't like the Rose character. I didn't care for her character much either. So,
she's better in the movie than she is in the canon books, but that's a whole nother story.
Right. So, do you guys see that in this third film? We'll start off with you, Yardley. Are we going to see any shipping at all with either Finn with anybody? We'll say that.
Gosh. Well, I don't know, because I think that this one takes place like a year later than the last one. I don't know if they're going to do that, but when you're looking at the promotional materials and how the movie's being promoted, and you're looking at the toys and the packaging and the posters, it seems to be that Finn and I can't remember what the name of the sister,
the new black lady.
Is it Jana or something? Or
I have no fucking clue.
I can't remember.
I've never heard from her. Does she exist?
Yeah.
Anyone know her name in the comments? Please.
Well, I
tell
can't
us what
remember
the hell it is.
The sister.
I can't remember what her name is, but it seems like they're promoting them as pretty much maybe being a little bit more of a team. Seems like Rose is kind of pushed to the side, at least promotional wise, because we haven't seen anything in the promotions of her and Finn being in a shot together. It's always him and the
Is she even in the fucking third movie?
Lady. So
Rose is, I seen her on. I seen her. She was with the sister. Her and the sister was in a group together during a press run. And they were talking, you know, and the guy used his time to talk about the whole stuff about her getting bullied on. I'm like, dude, what do you do?
Who gives a shit?
That was like 3 years ago. It's like, you know, and I could see her rolling her eyes like, really, dude, you only hit like 5 minutes.
That was 3 years ago. Like, everyone's on, I think, just accounts back or whatever the fuck was going on.
Right.
Well, a lot of that was Lucasfilm's Disney fault because they don't know how to fucking manage shit, but that's a whole other story. Okay, so Rose really does. She fangirls off of Finn. In the books, it's very fucking apparent. So like I said, the movie version of her is a lot better than the shit that happens in the books with her over Finn. It's you know, but she really likes Finn.
It's one-sided.
Nothing that Finn, it's kind of one-sided. He's like, because you know, Finn kind of is looking a little bit more towards Rey.
Right, and Rey's friend-zoned her.
Yeah, Rey is friend zoning him, and he seems like he'd be a little bit more interested in Rey based on what has been happening. Because any shit happens to Rey, he's always
Rey.
Rey.
Oh, God,
Remember that whole thing in The Last Jedi, that shit that he made up was to get back to her.
Right.
So I mean,
he's pretty sad guy. Yeah.
Hey man, the things that custodians will do for love.
Oh wow!
Don't get me started on being the sanitation worker of the Empire. Or whatever.
He's the new buffoon of Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh Jesus! Don't get me started on that. But so okay, so all right. So we talked. We mentioned shipping. We mentioned Snoke. We mentioned the Knights of Ren. Also, what do you want to see from? What do you want to see from Kylo Ren in this episode? or this movie. Yardley, we'll start off with you. I mean, like, do you buy his complete heel turn in episode 8, and do you want to see him completely ruthless? You know, do you want to see him get some kind of redemption at the end? Like, what is it that, Yardley, we'll start off with you, that you want to see from his character going forward?
Well, I don't buy completely the heel turn in the last movie because Palpatine's back, so we know that he's not going to be a top dog on that front. I mean, I think that he's going to be a bad guy for a certain amount of time, and I think that he's going, whether or not he lives or not, I can't call it. If I'm just basing it on Star Wars, I think he probably will die at some point, but he'll probably die at some point, you know, helping our main character Rey kind of accomplish the big thing. But the specter of Palpatine instantly reduces Kylo Ren's role to me as far as like being the big thing at the end, because all eyes are on Palpatine. But I do think that, I mean, that it's Star Wars. He has to come back around. It's going to be the same parallel. You know what I mean? So I'm not really doubting that there will be some aspects of that we've seen before.
Right.
And I think we're just going to, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's the safe, you know, it's the safe thing to do. You know what I mean? And it's the Star Wars thing to do. You know, that whole the redemption thing, or, you know, I mean, that's just part of the fabric of what Star Wars is. And I don't think they're gonna, especially the way that J.J. Abrams has been talking about paying homage, I don't think they're gonna, you know, swing a left on that.
What about you, Lauren? What do you want to see from Ren in this next
Ren?
And could you ever forgive Kylo for the crimes he's committed personally?
Can I convict him for it?
No, can you forgive him for it?
Can I forgive him? I'm a storyteller. I like watching stories. So wherever the story goes, that's what the story goes. Like, I'm not the fan that, oh my God, I can't forgive him. Like, I'm not into that. Like, I fucking write stories. So I'm like, I'm watching it as an adult, looking at the shit. I'm like, okay, however they go, they go. But
hey, Lauren,
I'm not one of those fans.
Let me ask you a question. This is for you and Kente. To me, I think it's ridiculous if people can forgive Darth Vader for all the shit that he did. There's no way in hell just because he killed Han Solo, he's irredeemable. I keep hearing that. I'm like,
he killed the younglings, right? He did a lot of evil shit.
Think about what Vader did. Like, let's even, if you just watch the fucking movie, he tortured his fucking daughter.
This is what I'm saying. It's like
the whole first movie when he caught her, he tortured her. He did all kinds of shit to her.
This guy is like co-signing.
Talk about the shit that he was doing to her and how she couldn't figure out this man was my father. He tortured me. It's a whole. If you read the book, you see what
you know. What? He's a typical. He's a typical deadbeat dad that only does right before he dies.
You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. I mean, because, you know, I think, well, I mean, that's just my take of it. Like I said, if Vader's redeemable, like Kylo Ren hasn't done anything compared to, you know what I'm saying? Darth Vader,
he really hasn't. If you look at all of the shit that we know Vader has done, from canon shit to movies, he's nothing compared to his grandfather in terms of shit.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, nothing. From all the movies up to when he dies, to all the comic books where he's doing horrendous shit, to all the books where you see him doing horrendous shit, to everybody under current canon, to the books even after he's dead, who were kids when Vader went to planets and tortured people and enslaved people for the Empire so they can get the planet's resources. Like, that's canon shit. Like, one of the guys who doesn't like Leia, who finds out that Darth Vader is her father, part of the reason why he does the shit to Leia is because of Darth Vader enslaved his planet, enslaved his father. Like, he remembers seeing Vader torture people and force choke people, trying, to get them to work faster and shit. Like, Vader was a piece of work, and we forgave him. The story forgave him. And all that other stuff. But in terms of what I'm going to see for Kylo, is he going to be more emo than normal? Because this is the most, like, I think Adam Driver does a good job of playing something very wrong with him type of person.
You know what? Before he took his helmet off in The Force Awakens, he was like the baddest dude. And the minute he took that helmet off, he was like
a 16-year-old who's
right
in a grown man's body.
He's like, this is a tough guy.
Hey, that shit was hilarious.
It's like, this is the tough guy that we were, but I think that's what makes his character compelling, though. I think that aspect of him, because it's like we haven't seen any villain like that, before, that has at least we that side of him. So I think that's what's pretty interesting.
So it's like a very different thing, because he's the wannabe.
Right.
He wants to be great. He thinks he's entitled to all this shit because he's royalty and he's Vader's grandson and he has force powers and technically the way, eventually I think we'll get more on his time with Luke, but Luke was thinking was like, you're the next generation, I'm passing the torch to you kind of shit that was supposed to happen. But like, he's entitled to all this shit, and then he thinks he should be the man. And then Snoke, remember, the great con man, you have to think of him as a con man, right?
Right.
The great con man is souping this motherfucker up. He's like, yes, you're the greatest, you're going to be next. That's what he does. So when he chastises him, oh, you're disappointing your grandfather kind of bullshit. He literally takes the helmet and talks to the fucking helmet and shit. Like, he's trying to, like, he's such a big wannabe. And I think that's cool to have a character like that where you get to kind of see that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see him with the mask when we first meet him, it was like, oh shit. And then he takes it off and he's acting. You see what's happening. You see him being downgraded and berated. And you're like, oh, okay, now I understand this a bit more. But, are we going to get more emo shit? Because right now, he's the head of the First Order, the big head, right? That's in his mind, he is, right? Mm-hmm. However, I think there was one guy who I think who's playing a First Order officer who we don't see. I think we're going to get more of that. It's not just enough to say you can sit in the chair and say, hey, I'm the big man. I'm a big this. I can force choke you, whatever. I think he's going to see a lot more officers and stuff like that who are older than him. And I think it's going to be an issue. It's one thing when it's Snoke, because Snoke knew how to be a leader in his way. But you got Kylo. I'm not sure of how much of that, because he's just an ego-driven, power-hungry brat.
You know what I loved about Kylo in the first film? He had like the ghetto mask and the ghetto lightsaber. It was kind of
like it wasn't going to turn on.
Yeah, like he got the lightsaber from Wish.com. It was like kind of, like it was pretty funny.
It was hilarious.
And then they got rid of the mask in the second one, but I see that it's coming back.
Lightsaber to still be fucked up, because that shit to me was hilarious. Remember, he was trying to press to turn it, and the way it acted like the shit wasn't going to turn on.
Yeah, it felt like it always looked like it was going to blow up at any time in his hand.
I was waiting for that shit to blow up. Like, I need that shit to blow up.
Yeah, that'd be a funny way for him to go out. His shit just malfunctions, and he kills himself with his own thing.
I know. We're just looking at it like.
Mm-hmm. Now they keep. I wish they didn't put this in the previews, but they keep showing like the final battle. I'm assuming it's the final battle between Rey.
Oh, you mean the horses?
The Rey and Finn battle.
The Rey and.
I'm sorry, the Rey and Kylo Ren battle.
Yeah, I wish they hadn't done that.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the end.
You don't think that's the final battle?
No, that's probably I think.
Probably in the middle.
What I understand, that's something towards the middle. That's not a final battle.
Okay. I'm thinking that's like the big. All right. Well, then I feel better.
No, that's just they. Remember that thing when they were doing that fat nut?
Mm-hmm.
There's a power called fast forward or flash forward, some shit. That's I think it's supposed to be a part of what that's supposed to look like. Where they're in different times and planes and shit, and they kind of run into each other.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good then.
They're trying to show a preview of what the hell that's supposed to look like.
Doesn't it seem like whatever happens like between those two is going to be a little kind of anticlimactic? Because one of the reasons why I feel like the only other way for things to go for Kylo Ren is for at some point for them to team up and do something. It's just the fact that
it's just a team
we
up.
know he's not going to beat her in a sword fight. Like she beat him the first time she touched the lightsaber.
And she wasn't even trained
you know what
up.
I mean?
Yeah.
And then like nothing really popped in the last one, so we know he's not going to whip her. So if you can't beat him, join him. That's one of the things that I think is going to happen. And I think it'll be interesting, but I think the likelihood of them probably teaming up, because I don't see either of those characters being able to beat Palpatine on their own. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because even, I mean,
but the thing is, the way they're presenting it is from the stuff that was leaked and stuff that I understand is that he's playing both of them during the movie. Like he's calling to both of them and he's trying to play both of them. So he's doing that. Like Palpatine's biggest superpower is his planning and manipulation techniques. He's like the master of that shit. So I think it's more about him using both of them and manipulating them. And then, Palpatine likes to see people battle and shit. He likes to he likes to make people run around and make you believe and make you run around. And then he likes to put you against each other and battle and see who's stronger. Like that, to see that feeds his energy shit. Literally.
I hear that this movie has a lot of flashbacks too, which is something that we don't see a lot. We haven't seen really in Star Wars except for the flashback in Episode 8. I believe that might have been the first flashback we ever got in Star Wars. Was the flashback where in the tent when Luke comes to,
right.
But I hear from what I hear that there's going to be a lot of flashbacks in this film, a lot of it of Luke. So I don't know how true that is, but that'll be really different for a Star Wars film. A bunch of flashbacks.
Well, they got to give us some. I mean, based on what happened in the second movie, we need some more context for what the fuck's being said, and the fact that they're going to show at least one new force power, which I think was the Flash. I forgot what it's called, like Flash Forward, some shit like that, where you have the ability to kind of go in time and space and shit like that, which is established in some other Star Wars media as canon. Some kind of weird power that's going to happen, but if you can't go back and like you don't see what Luke had said or what, it leaves us without context. So then the movie really falls apart. The shit is happening. We're not like, what the fuck? Why is this relevant and where did this come from? So I think this is a movie they can't do without flashbacks, considering how the second one went. If the second one went a little differently, we probably wouldn't needed a lot of the context that they're going to have to put in there. Especially since a lot of people do not read the other books and shit that I do to understand. I understand where this is coming from. So I think this is a movie where we have to put these things in, or else the shit doesn't work. Plus, in order to have Carrie Fisher in it, we might find out in this movie that by the time we get a year later that she's already dead. Because they were trying to play with it. They didn't want to do a hologram. What they want to do is use old footage. So there's a possibility that we go into this movie and, we find out that Leia's already died and like Rey has to remember stuff that Leia said. So that's part of the thing. That might be because that was a big discussion if they were going to do it that way. And I think that was a big consideration. So, flashbacks that give us context is great.
I'm going to leave out one thing that probably we should talk about, but I'm going to just be honest. I don't want to talk about it, is Rey's parentage. So when we do a review of the movie, then we can go into that. But I don't want to belabor about Rey's parentage, whole thing.
Find out later.
But now people said the Solo film had no merit to it because we didn't really get much information from it, right? But I say that we did get a very important factoid that may play a huge part in Episode 9. We learned that Lando enjoys the sexual company of robots. So my question to you guys is, will Lando, since we know he's going to be in Episode 9, will he have a robot lover in this movie? Do you think that will be happening?
No.
Nah, man.
Because remember, he's fluid. He's very fluid.
Yeah, I don't. No, I mean,
sex spot. That was like, I program you. The way I looked at that situation was that was his space spot versus when he's on planet, he's probably getting some real whatever feels good stuff versus, all right, I'm on the fucking shit with you and I'm horny. This is, I'm gonna get mines off one way or another type shit.
Were you? Yeah, like
that's what it seemed like to me because she, that's what you like. Like if you had the ability to buy a sex spot, you're like, all right, I only fuck with you when I got nobody else. But when I'm out there in them streets and I got, real flesh to flesh contact, then later for you could be in the closet.
Oh, okay. Just yeah. That was so bizarre.
She's a sex toy. It's a sex toy you turn on and then you put in the closet. Only she can cook your dinner.
Now, is he going to be a cameo or is he going to be in the movie?
Well, he's flying the plane, so I think he's more than a cameo. Because originally they were talking about doing Well, there was people thought that we were going to see Lando again at a funeral because Han never had a funeral.
Right.
There was no funeral for Han, and we've had a funeral for Vader and some other folks. But we might see he might come into it for I think it's going to be more than that. I think it's going to be more than a minute. I think he has a good maybe 4 minutes on screen, I think.
Well, that's good because he definitely needed to be in the film because he's in pretty good shape.
This is his last go around, baby. This is his last go around. So let's.
Yeah, he should be sitting back somewhere drinking a Coke 45. Okay, so let me ask this question: do you think that this film is going to, box office wise, be up there with Last Jedi and Force Awakens? Do you think it's going to be $1 billion movie?
Yes, without a doubt. They're going to make it. If they can make Captain Marvel be $1 billion movie, even with all the evidence that people wasn't really in them theater seats, then this one automatically will. And besides, they have a much like the Star Wars fan base might bitch, but they also buy tickets. And that's the kind of thing they know. Mm-hmm. Star Wars people will buy all the fucking tickets. They will see the movie multiple fucking times and all that, even if they fucking hate the shit and will bitch of it on all the media.
So Solo was their only protest film.
Yeah, Solo was the protest film.
Okay, so it won't be this. What about you, Yardley?
Rogue One made over $1 billion. It's actually one of the top 32 grossing movies.
Yeah, it was a huge hit.
Of all time.
Do you think,
I think this was a protest film.
Do you think Episode 9 is going to be $1 billion film?
Yeah, well, I know that The Last Jedi, it did crack $1 billion, but it made less than, of course, The Force Awakens, which was highly anticipated against a long hiatus. I do think that this one is going to cross $1 billion, but it wouldn't surprise me if it made less than The Last Jedi, but crossed $1 billion. I think that this is a movie that I think that the people who hated The Last Jedi, I don't think that they're going to be repeat viewers.
No. Okay. Let me ask this question. Now, this is as a side note. Force Ghost. We can see that Force Ghost in the last episode. I keep calling them episodes. Well, they are episodes, but the last film can, manifest things, right? Like what was that? Right, lightning and all that. Apparently, maybe Force Ghost can manifest getting someone pregnant, because if you've seen, I saw the first episode of The Mandalorian, and was Yoda going around planting seeds? Because did you see the first episode of Mandalorian?
Yeah, I saw the episodes of Mandalorian. I know what you're talking about. No, because you're assuming that's maybe Yoda's kid, and then there's the other one, Yaddle's kid, and not necessarily.
I've only seen the first episode, so I can't talk beyond.
That kid was born like after Yoda's death.
Right, so maybe his Force Ghost.
Not necessarily, because we don't know their gestation period, because we don't know if they're live births or eggs. Like, that could have been an egg sitting around and it takes like 80 years for it to hatch, and then now we're at the hatching period, because we don't know anything about the species.
Well, I don't know. In my fantasy world, what the fuck happened? In my fantasy world, Yoda's going around making babies after death.
Well, we do know that baby Yoda thing is 50. So it's 50 years old.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it is. They said it in the show. It's 50.
Oh, wow.
So, it's 50 years old.
So do you guys like Baby Yoda? Do you like that they went there?
It's cute.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool, but I'm still ready, okay, so what? Why?
Tell
me why. Like, where is this going? I'm
watching the episodes, and they're already filming. They're almost done filming, or halfway done filming season 2. That's what storytelling's about.
No spoilers, because I've only seen the first episode. Okay, but I liked what I saw. I love Pedro Pascal, who's you guys know him from Game of Thrones and Narcos and all of that stuff. And and I like the vibe of it.
His face.
Huh?
I'm just glad we don't see his face.
Oh, so you never see his face?
Yeah, he can't. The way this lore is going, he cannot. If he takes off the helmet, then he can no longer be a Mandalorian. Oh. But I just don't think he's a handsome man, so I'm glad I don't have to see his face.
Wow, I think it's funny. Well,
Dang.
You know how we hear about how that like on that show. This really isn't spoiling much, like kind of like how they're like on the run and things like that. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's a new thing, after the things that we saw in some of the canon, TV shows. Maybe they've gone back to a more ancient way of like not taking the helmet off, because we saw all through Clone Wars that they were taking their helmets off.
So
that's a new.
the same thing too. They took their helmets off.
So this is a whole new, more hardcore wing, apparently, of the Mandalorian.
Yeah, like I think what's being established is that Mandalore, the stuff that we find out, especially in Rebels, is that Mandalore is not just a planet; it's the moons, and there's all these different people, and that they have like you could be a Mandalorian and they can adopt you. There's a whole other shit that goes to it, and the helmet thing might be because they have a lower caste of people, and they're more hardcore because Mandalorians is a warrior culture. Mm-hmm. So this might be. They keep hinting that something possibly happened on Mandalore that caused a lot of the Mandalorians that were left to leave, and maybe they really have to hide their identity because some crazy shit happened that we haven't seen on screen yet. Any that's what it seems to me, that something did happen, and like because I think they mentioned the Great Scourge. I think something else happened on Mandalore, and a lot of the Mandalorians got displaced again, and they're like, you know what? If people see our face, it's going to be a problem, so we're going to keep this on.
Let me ask a stupid question. Why does he not have a jetpack?
Because he hasn't. Okay, so this is what was established. He was adopted into a Mandalorian culture, so he's not a born Mandalorian. And the stuff you see him with the armor getting replaced and stuff like that, it's like a knight. He has to earn his jetpack. You just don't get it.
Oh, so he's going to eventually get a jetpack.
Yeah, so all this stuff we're seeing, like when he...
So Boba Fett was like again, OG.
They'll add more shit to him.
So Boba Fett was like, he was OG, triple OG.
Well, Boba Fett technically is not a Mandalorian. He's a clone. So he just took his father's shit and put it on.
Oh, okay.
He was never considered a Mandalorian.
Dang, see, it's confusing. But
yeah, he never went through the cultural shit. Like, there's a whole cultural thing. Like Sabine in Rebels, she's from a house and highly regarded. And then the Empire took over. So that's one thing with her. But she says with her uniform, when it was like, hey, you need to change this, she said, no, I'm not going to do that. And she went into the whole Mandalorian, why you wouldn't do these things. So it's the same thing with him, only I think he's from a lower caste, and because he was adopted versus born into, he also has to earn every piece of armor and upgrades. It's not just given to you. So he's like, I got to get that, well, you'll see, I got to get that jetpack. That means he has to earn it. He has to do things.
Oh, they mentioned it on the show about the jetpack?
Yeah, okay. They do.
Oh, cool. Now me and Yardley have talked about this, and we're gonna close out pretty soon. But me and Yardley talked about this. Dave Filoni, who we know him from all of his work on the animated series. He is a major part of the series. I believe he directed the first episode, and he wrote and directed the 5th episode, and he's part of the writing staff. Yeah, Jon Favreau is the main person, and
it's also part of the story group.
Right, the story group. And more people wanted him part of the movies. Yeah. But he is part of this. Are you guys happy that he's a part of this series? Do you think that makes a huge difference as far as quality?
Well, I mean, there have definitely been better directors than him on there, but I think he's done a decent job with the opportunities that he's gotten. And it's actually, I mean, these are great opportunities for him because it's just going to expand the things that he's done. Because his directorial debut, I think, was the first episode, and then this last one. And I just think that he's doing a good job. The more things that he can do and the more experience it gives him.
He's young
bit
too.
More
he's only like
leeway,
45. Yeah.
In the future. Yeah. But I mean, as much as I like Dave Filoni, and I'm a big, I'm a big fan of his. I actually, after I did some thinking about it, because you know how people always want to kind of launch him in a Kathleen Kennedy spot, but I think the reality is, if you know what the executive producer does and you know what Dave Filoni does, the last thing you want is for him to take over for Kathleen Kennedy, because all of the things that we like him for, he won't be doing as much of in that position. So he's got a lot more. He's got a lot of goodwill. He's got a lot more going for him. But I mean, just selfishly for me, I just think that he's probably better served being more on the creative side than him. Yeah, you know what I mean? I just don't think that he's ready for that. And quite frankly, I just think that he's more needed doing the things that he's doing now.
Yeah, he's a very young guy. He's like 45. So, and he's so accomplished. So, at this point in his life. So
I agree. I think there are people who are suited for more of the creative shit. He's the guy suited for more of the creative shit than more of the business stuff. I think I don't think he can handle, like, Kathleen Kennedy gets a lot of shit, but when you actually see who she's worked with and the shit that she's done, because a lot of people don't really know her background. And
I know her background very well.
Well, you do, but most of these people watching this shit don't. So, and a lot of the Star Wars fans and, love her or hate her, she's like, you really don't understand. That's not an easy fucking role to do. And the people she's had to deal with, you have to manage the money, all this other shit. She has her own fucking boss, which she has to answer to. And then you have to round up creatives and get the fucking creatives to do what you need them to fucking do with as limited problems. That's not fucking easy, because I have to do that shit. And that shit ain't easy. So I admire her for that. I actually ran into her at the last Star Wars convention I actually saw her, so I thought it was have some interesting insights on my view of her. But I'd rather him stay on the creative side. I'm glad that he's finally gotten a chance to direct the live action, and he seems to be doing a pretty good job at that. He's a guy who really knows the canon and what's happening, what's going to happen, and how to navigate stuff. And I think he's a good storyteller. So I don't want to see him as an executive producer. I'd rather him grow more as a creator and working in live action and also, and that kind of thing. I mean, so I agree with Yardley on that. I'd rather see him develop more in that role than switch over to, I'm going to be the business guy. Because being the business guy also means you have to be the fucking bad guy sometimes too. Or a lot of times.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so as we about to close out, the film comes out December 20th. I don't know. It seems like this rollout is weird.
You're not the only one who noticed how weird this shit is?
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, what to think of it. It just seems like a weird rollout, and because we're only 12 days away from it, and it doesn't seem like, I don't know, man.
No movie's coming out to me.
Huh?
It doesn't feel like a movie is coming out in 12 days.
Right. It feels like it's pushing back or something. I don't know. I know it's not. But...
You know what it seems like? It kind of seems like kind of the way that I felt going into the final season of Game of Thrones. As excited as I was that I was going to get a resolution to it, there was also half of me was like, I'm just ready for this to be over. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I'm just ready for it to be over, and then, see what comes next years down the road. But I don't watch a lot of like network TV, so I don't know what the advertising has been.
That's the problem.
Very little.
Considering that we're in 2019 still, the way they've been fucking PRing this movie has been fucking horrible.
You have to be following it, right? Like on social media, you have to follow them to like see it in your feed. Mm-hmm. But I don't really.
Fans
Lauren, do you
job.
watch network TV? Are they promoting it on?
I mean, I watch like sporting events and stuff, and I mean, I see commercials here and there. Luke says maybe it's a secret. Hilarious. Like I haven't really, and then the actors, I mean, they've been on some stuff, but it seems kind of strange. They did their what do you call it? The junkets and stuff, and that was weird. It just had a weird feel to it. And
Finn, John Bay go, yeah, I'm the one who leaked the script. Bitch, they fired the last motherfucker who did that shit.
Right, I hate that too. Like, yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and then I don't know, man. But I mean, we'll see. But it doesn't, like, the way that they're kind of rolling it out. It doesn't feel like it's a big, like, it should be the biggest film of the year. I'm trying to think of what came out. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot. Endgame came out. Did it come out this year?
Yeah, that was this year.
Yeah, it's not going to top Endgame. But, I mean, it should be, like, right there, I'm
not even hearing about sold out ticket theaters and shit. And I'm usually, you hear about shit like that. I'm not that, like, the things that I would look to see, and I've seen like MCU roll out and follow that, and we talked a little bit about that and stuff like that. I'm not seeing it. It's like they're marketing it in the wrong. They're marketing it like we're in 1997 versus we're in 2019.
Right.
That's what it feels like to me. And I'm like, we're not even on those mediums anymore. That's not where the talk is coming from. Unless you, even when you follow John Boyega and he's posting his little things, like, I'm not fucking really interested in that shit. Like, fucking live stream, be on a radio show. What did I say? I said we have the first Star Wars movie in which you have 3 black fucking characters that are not fucking aliens in the fucking movie. We got old school Lando. We got, Finn. And we got whatever that black lady's name is, who we don't even know who the fuck she is or what the fuck she does. Like, we forgot about that chick. How, like, sister girl, I guess you in the movie for 2 minutes.
And Lupita, right? It's going to be in it too, right? I mean, but as a creature, though.
Or not a fucking alien.
No, I'm just saying, though, like, Lupita is going to be in there too.
Okay, so 4 people, if you counting her as an alien, but people in terms of in flesh and blood, we can see they're black.
Right.
We have 4 of them. I'm sorry, we have 3 of them. 4 if you're including, Maz Kanata as Lupita and all that stuff, who might be in the movie for like a minute.
Right. I hated her last scene in the 8. It was so stupid.
Yeah, I think she might be in there for 2 minutes. I don't think she's going to be like a big ongoing character, a big part of the movie. I don't think so. But 3 folks, at least, who in flesh, we can see them. There's no doubt. And I haven't seen one press junket PR shit for any of the nerd radio shows, the black nerd radio shows. No. I haven't seen people who are blurred, whatever they are, do interview runs with them, and they've been doing interviews with other fucking movies that are not fucking sci-fi or fiction and other shit. I'm not seeing any of that.
Right. I don't even think I've seen Black Tree.
Like, I don't know what's going on.
I mean, maybe they just haven't released it yet, but I don't recall Black Tree even. Yeah. And they usually get everybody, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. It feels like I mean, it's going to do well, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be what it could be or should be. After after Force, like, and one question though, do you think they should have spaced the movies out more?
Longer?
Yeah.
Because how long was it? It was Force Awakens, and then what? A year went by. It's like on the 2 years.
Yeah, I think was it 2 years?
It was a 1 or 2 year delay.
Yeah, it was like because the next year came out Rogue One, then the following year was, and then it wasn't even 6 months between Last Jedi and Solo. So
yeah, well,
so it's
Solo,
been a year and a half now. It's been a year and a half since Solo.
I think Solo might have been better had they not all the fuck shit that they had going on behind the scenes, and they just said, you know what, we're gonna wait for this movie. Maybe Solo would have been a lot better, because if they had more time to do shit, I think, because there are people who are supposed to be in that shit who I think would have made it better, or a different script shit. It was just a whole lot of shit. But we got what we got. But in terms of The Last Jedi, had it been 2 years later, would it be a different movie? I think that's the big question. If they made us wait 4 years, because it seems like at one point they were trying to do the MCU schedule shit, where like every year there's a movie. The major movie comes, then a minor character movie comes out, or who's going to be in a major big Avengers film, and then another one comes out. It looks like they were trying to imitate the MCU movie schedule.
Right. I never thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, I thought that was. I was like, you know what? I'd rather wait 3 years and I get this shit right. Then the next year, here's this movie. Then here's this movie, because then you don't have enough time to fix shit. Or if something like if a character dies, now we have more time to figure this shit out and do it right.
Right. I don't know. Maybe they thought some of these actors are old. They didn't have time. I don't know.
I think they thought these people were gonna live fucking forever, as if people wasn't doing drugs when they were doing drugs in rehab and shit.
Look, Mark Hamill does look like he's on meth. So he does. He looks pretty high every time I see him. So
don't put Black Nerd Swag in that shit.
And real quick before we say goodbye, Mark Hamill, you gotta love him. He's at a point in his life where he don't care. And if you ever hear interviews with him, where he's just talking about how he feels about everything, it's hilarious. So I really, they have like this compilation of him talking about, the issues that he had with, the films and all of that. And it's pretty funny if you haven't seen it. So, but
a couple of Comic-Cons ago, I went live Mark Hamill and stuff. I went and bought tickets. I was sitting up front. It was pretty cool. He's pretty cool to watch in person and stuff in person. But he's at that point, like, who does he give a shit? He got his check.
What they gonna do?
He don't give a shit. It's like Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford does some wild shit. You catch him at the right time.
Harrison Ford done crashed 5 planes.
He does not care.
Look, Harrison Ford's crashed more than Han Solo. Okay. So, All right, so I'm gonna start off with you, Lauren. How can people get you on social media and all that good stuff? And what should be on the lookout for with you?
All right, so this coming week we will be releasing tickets for the virtual pop summit for Black Nerd Swag. The tickets are $10. In order to get them, you go to our Facebook page, which is Black Nerd Swag. Talk to our messengers, or send us a message, say, "Hey, what's up?" or something like that, and it will ask you for information like your email address. We need that because that's how we're sending out the information for the tickets. So you do that this week, you'll be able to get the tickets for $10 because it will be available this coming Friday. So we got Kente's on it. So if you want to hear him and I, rap a bit about all kinds of stuff, we got comic book artists in it. We got we actually got some people who are organizers of cons that are coming up soon. So we got a lot of folks there from the community that you can come see and listen to and also support. We're talking about crypto on there. So it's a whole lot of stuff. So if you're interested in that, also I will be in there too. I'm going to be talking about making money as a creative and how to do that in terms of marketing and sales and things like that. Because I know Kente and a few other people and a lot of other people want to know a bit more about that. So I'll be doing a presentation on that. So if you want more information on that, go to Black Nerd Swag, our Facebook page, say what's up to our bot, answer the questions. Please drop your email address in there as well as your number so that we can send you out that information. Plus, you can follow us on Twitter, Black Nerd Swag, at Black Nerd Swag on Twitter, and say what's up. We are on there too. But for the ticket information, go to our Facebook page, Black Nerd Swag, say hello to our messenger bot, leave your email in there, and you'll be sent out some information shortly.
All right. And how can we get you, Yardley?
As always, on Twitter, you can follow me at militant_marker.
All right. Thanks. Short and sweet. You can get me at Kente F on Twitter, Kente Ferguson on Instagram. And of course, the website is indyradio.org. That's INDY radio.org. We will be back sometime after the release of episode 9, and we'll do a review of the movie, and we'll give our thoughts and all of that kind of stuff, and we'll talk about how wonderful I'm sure it is going to be. So was that believable? But no, it should be a lot of fun. I feel comfortable that it'll be a good time. So what? Huh?
This will be the first time we'll see J.J. Abrams can actually end shit.
That's true, because he always starts, but he doesn't really end. But he did end Felicity, so just remember that. So, but yeah, so we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace. Good. I can eat my shrimp now.